he goes, this is going to seem like a crazy choice, but they both were great. So I think I'm going to choose hell. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the podcast. This is an exciting episode for us because it is episode number 75. That's kind of a milestone, wouldn't you say? And I hope that you've enjoyed many of the other episodes as well. And please subscribe if you have not, because I know that I found that a lot of the people that are actually watching these podcasts have not subscribed. So go ahead and click that subscribe button so that you will not miss a single episode as they come out, as we try to bring them out weekly. Well, today the question that we start off with is a very important one. Have you been deceived? What's worse than being misinformed, not really knowing what's going on, having things seem to be one way, but then it's really something else? Deception is something that we've been trying to avoid, hopefully, most of our life, and yet the Bible tells us that we are deceived in a couple of ways. So what are those ways? It's very beneficial for us to know them so we can recognize them and then hopefully overcome them. Wouldn't you agree? And so the first way that we're deceived is by the evil one. In fact, I want to reference John 8:44. Jesus referred to the evil one. He says to the people that he was speaking to, he goes, "You are of your father, the devil, and you want to do the desires of your father. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. Whenever he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of lies." 2 Corinthians 11:14 references this as well. He says, "No wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light." 2 Corinthians 11:3 says, "But I'm afraid that as the serpent deceived Eve by his craftiness, your minds will be led astray from the simplicity and purity of devotion to Christ." So how is it that we're deceived? The Bible tells us as well that he disguises himself, as I mentioned, as an angel of light. Often it'll seem as if it's the right way, and yet he manages to deceive us. Have you been deceived? Are you being deceived even right now? Thinking about how he works, I couldn't help but remember a little story that I thought was kind of interesting. It's not necessarily factual, but it's a story of a man who actually lived kind of a very difficult life, maybe did some things that he probably shouldn't have. And when it came time for him to die, suddenly he had a kind of unusual circumstance. He was told that, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to allow you to kind of check out both places, heaven and hell, and then you can kind of decide which one you want to go ahead and do. And he thought, wow, I didn't know it worked that way. And quite honestly, it doesn't. But for the story purposes, we're going to go ahead and say it. So what happened was that the first thing he did was he actually went to heaven. And in heaven, it was pretty nice. I mean, he was there and spent a day there, and it was really peaceful, and there were a lot of great things happening, great singing, great worship, very relaxing, pretty much anything that he would want. And he thought, wow, heaven, that sure seems great. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to want. Wouldn't anybody want to go to heaven? And then they said, well, before you do that, you should check out hell also. So he got sent then to hell. And when he got to hell, he was quite surprised at what he saw. I mean, he was greeted all of a sudden. He got there, and a lot of his friends from the past were all there. And they were there to greet him, and they looked so happy, and they looked so healthy, and they were having a great time. They went out and actually played 36 holes of golf that day. And just was a wonderful time. They were laughing. They were enjoying, each other's company. He even met the devil himself, who came up, and to his surprise, was a very nice guy. I mean, he kind of greeted him and was very gentle and had a great sense of humor, and he kind of spent the day. And so when he left, he gets up there and he thinks to himself, wow, this is a tough choice. I mean, heaven, and who wouldn't want to go to heaven? That's where everything's supposed to be at. But you know what? Hell, there was, my friends were there and they looked awesome and they were having a great time and we played golf together. We hung out together. And he said to St. Peter, he said, he goes, this is going to seem like a crazy choice, but they both were great. So I think I'm going to choose hell. And he said, are you sure? And he said, yeah. So he ends up going there. And so he gets down to hell and all of a sudden he's shocked by what he sees. Because his friends who looked so great the day before, now suddenly they look emaciated and like they're suffering and they're sweating and they look miserable and they're like nothing like they were the day before. The green, the golf course, everything, it's gone. It's hot there. There's no water. It's a terrible place. And then the devil comes up himself and he's this fiery creature and he's laughing, but this time like, hey, I got you and all that. And the man says to him, he goes, I don't understand. He goes, I was just here yesterday. My friends looked great and everything was wonderful. And now today it's totally different. I don't understand. And Satan turns to him and he says, well, yesterday we were just campaigning. Today you voted. Now that is a story that's obviously not factual. It's not really like that. But that is in many ways the way the devil works. He deceives. He tricks us. He makes things look better than they actually are. And then he'll even talk to you into saying that you can, live a certain life and take a certain type of lifestyle. And these are the things that are going to lead to your happiness. And often people find themselves much further down in life and discover that, hey, wait a minute, this is not all that it was cracked up to be. All the things that I thought would make me happy, all the things that I thought would bring satisfaction, that's not what's happening at all. We've been deceived. So you want to make sure to put on, as Ephesians 6:11 says, put on the full armor of God so that you will be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. We need to be putting on the belt of truth. We need to be putting on the breastplate of righteousness. We need to be carrying that sword of the Spirit and that shield of faith and that helmet of salvation, everything that's in there. All of these aspects of faith are very important to be able to stand against the schemes and the deceiving that comes from the evil one. Have you been doing that? A great dose of the Word of God on a daily basis. Maybe even go back and listen to some of the other 74 episodes of this podcast, which are available, and you'll be able to be taking in a good diet of people and what God has done in their life, and also a good diet of scriptural principles. So we definitely encourage you to do that, as well as other podcasts and different things that are out there. Now, there's a second thing that deceives us as well, and that is ourselves. Often we are led astray by ourselves. James tells us that we're led astray by our own lust. We're tempted by our own lust. We're actually led astray. The Bible tells us that the heart is deceitful, and who can know it? Our own hearts will often deceive us. And there's something in Galatians 6, verse 7, which I want to bring to your attention today. And that is where God says, do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever a person sows, they will reap. We've got to know this and not deceive our own hearts. What is it that you are sowing or planting in your life right now? What is it that we're practicing on a regular basis? Are we being honest? Are we being kind? Are we showing the fruits of the Spirit that the Bible mentions about love, joy, peace, gentleness, self-control, and on those go? Is that what's characterizing our life, or are we sowing discord and hate and lust and dishonesty and mistreating other people and being unloving and being hateful and all of those things? What is it that we're planting and throwing out there on a regular basis, daily? Because just like anything else, when you plant seeds, you're going to reap what it is that you plant. What are you planting in your life? If I'm going to go ahead and I want, and let's say I plant some seeds for corn, what am I going to get? I'm not going to get green beans. I'm going to get corn. What if I plant some seeds for watermelon? What am I going to get? I'm not going to get avocados, although avocados would be great, but I'm going to get watermelon, right? If I plant a tree for peach trees, what am I going to get? It's not going to be an apple tree. You're going to get the result of what it is that you plant. And a lot of us are spending time planting things that are then coming back to us. Okay, whatever you plant, whether it's good or whether it's bad, that's what's going to come back. So if that was the case, then we've got to be very intentional and not be deceived by ourselves into thinking that we can just disobey the laws of God, do whatever we want, violate his principles, sin against him of what he's revealed in the word, and think that we're going to still receive, as a result of that, great things. It's not going to be that way. However, it does tell us in the same verses that if we don't get weary of doing that which is good, and we concentrate on doing those and don't allow us, our hearts to faint from doing that, but keep pressing on, we will reap and we will actually receive good in due time, God's timing. So let me just kind of clarify that once again. Think about your daily activities. Think about what you're doing. Think about how you're treating even some of your family. You know, I had this example of a young man who actually treated their parents very, very badly. And this person is a parent themselves. I would be really concerned over the course of time of having that come back to bite you when your kids get older. This is a way that it often works. In the world, people call this karma. And they say that it's something that you did in a past life now is going to come and affect you in a future life. But although we don't believe in that, and we don't believe in past life and future life, we only believe in one, and that's what the Bible talks about. That same type of principle is in there when it comes to this verse, what you sow, you will reap. There's been many a person that's had heartache in their life, and then they've gone back to realize that what has happened to them is exactly what they did towards someone else. So if that's the way that it works, then shouldn't it be the goal of our life now not to be deceived into thinking differently, but to be pouring out all the good stuff that we're hoping will also come back to us as well? Because the one who's in control of everything is the God who sees us, the God who knows us, and the God who loves us. Well, my friends, I hope that you're encouraged in the fact that by going into the Word of God, we can withstand the schemes and the deceit of the devil, and we can also withstand the deceit that comes from our own heart and our own mind. This is our principles that are encouraging to us and are a great manual for living. I'm looking forward also to some of the other episodes that are coming up, some interviews coming up that we're nailing down right now on some particular dates. It's going to be great. Also, just started writing a book just the other night, which is going to be the whole guide to living through audacious faith. So be praying about that. I would appreciate your prayers as I'm writing that, because I don't want to write it. And let me clarify that. I don't want to write it. I want God to write it. I want every word to come from him, because anything I tell you is just going to be whatever, but I want it to come from him and to speak to your heart. So please have that in prayer as well. And may God bless each one of you as you continue to live out a life of audacious faith. This has been episode 75. We will see you next time. God bless.